So, oh no, I forgot to put the stream back out because I deleted it yesterday. Oh god. So I forgot to put the notification didn't die. I actually went out this morning, contrary to popular belief of Froggets. I was actually enjoying myself. Made money too. Probably made more than Tony made today. I already did that earlier this week. But Tony gets very salty. Let's see. It's going to be like late on this thing. To the topic at hand. Now, this is going to cover because this part has the FBI testimony because this is the I think it's Richard Rye, his name, WRAY. He was the main person who testified, which would have been last Tuesday, or was it the 24th before Congress. I went with this one. I was going to go over the other aftermath because I was actually waiting to see what the hearing would be for. Because they didn't ask the acting director of the Secret Service to do anything right up until. See, technically, congressional hearings, for those who don't know, they submit the questions about a week ahead of time and give them about a week to basically answer. And basically, you're told to go before it. And it's actually a very interesting thing. The thing on this testimony it was like 4 hours. Because, as I said, okay, be right back. Actually, oh God, pardon me. How do I extinguish? I forgot to do something. Hello, Pet Boy. You need to keep that, don't you? You're not going to stop it. Someone didn't eat you. All right. Weirdo. Move. Move. There we are. Here. What's this? Here. I see it. I'm busy. Look at it later. Of course not. Weirdo cat. One sec. Apologize for the delay. Didn't get back in, and now I have to feed the cats. So feed them. If you don't feed them, they get very angry. So back to my topic. It was a hand. All right. I'll show people if you want to see. It's Christopher Roy. This is the page if you want to find the testimony. Now, see, this is where he had the occurrences recently, right? So if you want to look this up, you can find this. Because this was a very broad-based hearing. I mean, at first, the first part. Because I think, this was Wednesday? Yeah, I think it may have been Wednesday, because when was the 24th? Back. Yeah, 24th was Wednesday, so this was the day in Congress when that Netanyahu came. Biden had to be rushed back into town for the first time. This is why, if you ever want to look this up, you ever hear this, yourselves, you see this. And they usually keep this up, and it's usually a lot of it's unedited, ever. So, summer. It's not really warm, but it's like melting-ish. Still. So, then you can also find the other stuff he's done as well. Like, whenever he's been, these people, if you ever want to look them up. So, his testimony. So his testimony was largely hinted at because the Secret Service director at the time, the first one, was, basically the Secret Service director, Kimberly Cheadle, who had resigned Tuesday suddenly. And I thought this hearing was Tuesday, apparently. Very big new days. Ban Micron, SK, and other companies. So Biden's going to expand the CHIP Act. Interesting. See, I'm going to start a news thing because it's very very busy week in politics, because a lot of this has to deal with on the idea of what is foreign threats and what wasn't, because a lot of these hearings prove a lot to the public of what a lot of people have suspected for a little while with the nation. Because the thing is, our FBI is usually a domestic investigator, not a foreign investigator. Though they do have a foreign branch, so to speak. They aren't supposed to do it. That's usually the CIA. I mean, I forget what the act is called, but they aren't supposed to. I mean, uh, God, uh, minor migraine. So I said I'm still dealing with a sinus infection that refuses to die. It's a cold or flu or something. Um, so this hearing, the first one, covered everything from a lot of it was a national security threat. Sorry for the cough. Aye. Hold on. It wasn't bad till I got off and then I got back home. Now it wants to act up. Great. So half the hearing on the first was an introductory into Democrats' big push is to reinstate the assault rifle ban. That's what they want. Man, it's part of their big policy. Oh God, I gotta get water a second. Oh freaking hell. Oh God. Why am I feeling like I'm dying? Move, Grey Puff. Move. Move. Yes. Weirdos. Yeah, you. Weird. Why you guys want to lay there? You're in the way. Everything happens. Good. Think you're okay, and then you're not. It's when you get inside that it's the bad part. Hmm. So a lot of these hearings, right, are where the establishment of already known assassination threats and also what the Secret Service had found out investigating, because a lot of this was passed off to, because Kimberly Cheadle had passed this off to a large amount of this to basically the FBI, which is already strained, because the FBI, as of I think this week, basically put out a thing on Maduro or a couple of cartel leaders, because apparently they're working with the DEA to stop fentanyl. It's only taken 3 years. You have to go down to Mexico to work with their people to do it. Now, knowing this, a lot of this hearing it's a lot of minutia, but if you can break it down, it's very interesting, because it does establish that the Iranians threatened, I think it was basically Bolton or some other leaders. And it goes back to active terror threats from both Hamas, ISIS, and others. Because the FBI's had 56 different offices. About 50 to 60% of their assets are tied up right now in foreign and domestic threats currently, and the idea is this has been it's a very weird and super unprecedented. It's like 13% or 31% of their foreign assets are being used. And they have supposedly a $500 million shortfall in their budget. Now, something else that came out in this hearing too is they seized foreign on the board. Good Lord. Someone needs to get rid of that thing. It's worse than a Furby. So, now someone brought something in that reacts to sound and touch. You can hear it all the way across. See, my house is bigger than Tony's. And then Tony gets really jealous because his bungalow corner shack cul-de-sac yellow house that he rents, he gets really salty if I brought that up. My house is just echoey, especially in my office. 3,500 square foot house, Tony. How big is your house? 2,000 square feet, if that. But that's the point. Now, this is actually interesting because they act about the state. They established that at this time, they could not find a manifesto. They found a receipt on his dead body. They seized all his electrical. It's as I said, right? Because I hadn't seen this. Because a lot of the ideas, they seized his devices. Now, the big thing in the Democrats, as I was saying, they want the assault rifle ban. That's what they want. But the assault rifle ban would not stop this. Half the Democrats saying that they wanted the assault rifle ban it's kind of a fool's errand. Half of them are from states with very loose high crime because they're blue states. One was like Dearborn, Michigan. Like, you're going to tell me in Seattle, right? Well, I've been threatened at my home. Okay. You got Antifa people. That's not right-wingers. Sorry. There are no right-wing people who live up in the Pacific Northwest. If they are, they're the most closeted people because you're hated. Okay? You're not real. It's like saying, it's like Tony said to me once, something I already know because going back to the election of Obama back then, they said, there's conservatives up in Chicago. No, this doesn't exist. They don't exist. If they existed at all, they wouldn't be there. So, thank you, whoever just tuned in. So the idea, right, is half of this is Wednesday's hearing because, as I said, they had to stop this hearing because there was votes. Netanyahu spoke. So it was about 44. First was 44 minutes. It was 2 hours, and the other one was 127. 2 hours 15. Then the other one was 127. So about there. Now, he was saying that they had because right now as it stands, and I'm sure it's more now, because with the investigations that have come out in the last week that have to deal with this, is because the fact that the idea that I'm sure the CIA has been very busy as well, because of the fact in the matter that the foreign threats and domestic terror threats have been really high. But there's also the allegations that were semi-addressed in this, that the Biden department has been trying to weaponize the FBI, because they do bring up a case of a woman, 75-year-old woman from Massachusetts, who was going to report to Texas. All she did was part of a group that prayed and blocked an entrance to an abortion clinic in Washington, D.C. What do you do to that woman? She's 75 years old. They sentenced her to 2 years in prison. She's supposed to report to basically federal prison next week. And no one's attempting to stop her. And he got really, really defensive about that, because the FBI had talked to her. No one did anything, because there's allegations as well, because I think I've covered it, not before I cover it, but I've seen the article. The FBI was thinking gamers were threats. I really wish I could make this up. It sounds like, conspiracy theories becomes conspiracy facts at some point. Apparently, the soy-based white male is apparently a bigger threat than an Arab man who wants to carry a bomb and strap it to themselves and blow up people. See, there is something about the slow march to socialism. Democrats been on this road a while. And it's the other thing that Democrats were harping on in this committee is they're trying to tie Project 2025 to Trump, and that's not going to work. Because I think it was this week, the Heritage Foundation director said something anti-Semitic, that he didn't like Jewish people, and had stepped down. Because this whole thing about Project 2025 is a myth. Half of it is a scare tactic. And I've seen it before. It goes back to the contract with America. Democrats called it the contract on America at the time. The day I've lived long enough to actually know about this stuff. God. Contract with America, yes. God, that was like 1994. Yep. Led by Newt Gingrich. It basically ushered in a near decade. About a decade, it led to Republican sweep and pretty much Republican control for about 10 years. Right up until about 2004, 2006. Kind of undone by, and it unwillingly let it basically was a promise that, just you have to bring it up. It's kind of an very old thing. It wasn't like, a lot of Democrats called it a contract on America because it's very similar to the idea of Project 2025. It's not a new scare tactic at all. It's all they want to do is basically minimize the government and get power to the states and a bunch of other stuff. Because then again, that's a whole separate topic. The idea that the Democrats were basically, they've been doing the slow march towards socialism. Because the other thing it touches on in this hearing as well, they talk about the rise in political violence on both sides. But who's been doing the political violence? That's why I said this hearing was very broad. It laid out that he had prosecuted some Russians that were trying to do a bot farm. There were Chinese agents captured recently trying to do the same, which, I mean, they registered. There's also Hamas people found. So, as I said, the FBI has been rather busy. When you have about 60% of your assets tied up, I mean, that's pretty big. The thing about here is, and the whole thing is, they tried to say Republicans were behind Project 2025. There's a lot of scare tactics in it, and to be fair, something topic I may have to go into. It's the why Gen Zers have. It's why half the. I'm more Gen X going into pre-millennial. So, I mean, Tony's older than me, and he shows the wares of why Gen Xers are failed. He's a failure of one. You know, but the concept of it is they're their own worst enemies. A lot of people in power now, like all these Democrats were like, I mean, as I said, it's a lot of about his statement, what was known, because a lot of the investigating the incident initially, outside of what happened in the field and what the Secret Service knows, because they're not letting Congress talk to the agents themselves. They're keeping it. Apparently, the FBI conducted almost 100 plus interviews. They took his devices. Now, there was a lot of accusatorial stuff towards the FBI director for good reason. Because I will probably say between now and the last 10 years, you have had the FBI extremely active in everything. Like, he would not confirm there were assets in the crowd or at the rally of where Trump was. Like, in the past, they have admitted there were assets embedded into January 6th. Again. But then again, he did confirm the whole. He was asked about the. Were they going to hang Mike Pence? It doesn't work. He said that wasn't real. Now, it's part of being impartial because he's having to clean up the FBI from like half of them, because it's like what's weird is what's happened with half our agencies at the federal level. The old guard has started to retire. The new guard has come in. This is, I think I said in about a fandom thing the other day. Because the concept itself is they're very different. They're younger. So, if you see people who see this later on, I mean, this is crazy to say because, as I said, if you think a 75-year-old woman praying outside an abortion clinic needs to be thrown into federal prison for 2 years, yeah. I mean, I wish you luck, right? You know? I can't tell people that. I get really defensive about that. I forget what part that was in. But a lot of what this hearing was establishing. Like, but at the time, he had no manifesto. He wasn't on a watch list. Nothing. All evidence is pointing he worked alone. He didn't bring the ladder. He actually, unlike Cheadle, she basically didn't deny the conspiracy theories or quell them. He quelled a lot of them. Democrats tried to peg that it was an illegally bought gun. No, it was a legally bought gun. Now, he did not talk about what the failure was. Now, he shows no foreign, at this particular time, no foreign influence, no other actors. It was just him. But then again, he wasn't on a watch list or anything. But they're sitting on a document trove. Now, one of the congressmen asked him, it's very interesting. The Republicans are more poignant than the Democrats in the regards of it, because the Democrats themselves are very much about the obfuscation right now. Because this was about the time they're trying to coalesce around Harris. Kamala Harris as president. I mean, her stuff is going to probably fail spectacularly for the reasons of she's not a good candidate. She's good in canned speeches, but she's not good. Her voting record's coming to light. Democrats can't peg that she's an aristocratic black woman. She can't relate to the person on the street. You know, her record is very, very spotty. 4 years ago, she couldn't even get. Tulsi Gabbard knocked her out when she said about her record on drug convictions. And that's supposed to be the nominee. And one day, and don't even get me started on the fact, well, they tried to say she was a DEI hire because she hit a bunch of check marks. But as I said, I'll probably cover stuff on the election because a lot of the stuff with her is interesting. Because he was asked as well who's been in control of the Biden presidency. As well as it was reminded that they've had 200 Biden laptops that haven't done anything with it. So the thing about the Hunter Biden laptops, see, the FBI can backhack stuff if they have to. I mean, read between the lines at a federal hearing. You know, find that one story. She was see, that's why I thought I should have had this. Tony was like, well, you do this stuff. I mean, I had all this other prepared. Let's see. This is the AP. So this is the AP. He was asked about this right here. So they say 27 months. So it's about 2 years. 57 months, 34 months. I guess. Huh. I mean, but then again, bear in mind, he's very tight-lipped about this. The FACE Act right here. I'd have to go look this up a second. Alright, this is all public record. Charges, purpose of conspiracy, manner, overt acts. Count 2, freedom of access. No one ever said it's not for praying. The idea is they call it the FACE Act. Overt acts, the FACE Act. Conspiracy, yeah, yada, 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 against in the District of Columbia. So if you want to look this up yourself, it's very much the case. Hold on. What's going on with my StreamYards? And again. Thank you. All right. I may have to restart my router. So now the big part about this, yeah, well, it was 4 hours. The part that had to deal with the assassination is what did Crooks know? What did they know about Crooks? I mean, the idea that the Secret Service has been covering up the amount of like basically stuff going on. What is it? This is one of the biggest, how would you phrase it? The biggest areas since 9/11. Biggest time since 9/11 that there's been more traffic amongst foreign terror networks, more attempts to get into the country. Like, he was asked about the 9/11 hijackers. Like, yeah, it only takes a couple of them getting in to actually cause damage. By the way, for people who aren't aware, this is so what they call, by the way. See, Project 2025 is very similar to this right here. A lot of people misinterpreted it, you know. This was called the Contract on America by some who were lifelong Democrats. Fiscal responsibility, this is what they vowed. American Dream Act, Child Tax Credit, National Security Registration, job creation. Basically, Democrats are trying to say with Project 2025 that bad things are going to happen. Now, if you want to read through it's a 900-page document, okay? It literally is a 900-page document. It's this right here. Right. Dane said he read this. There's no way. It's a 900-page document. Okay. I can't even imagine what they want to do. It's a full page. This is what they talk about doing. Like, there is so much in here that I can't go over without reading it. Like, this is you're talking about a lot of stuff that has been like, there is so much, and this is just the mandated one. Like, a lot of people have seen the crazier stuff coming out of this. But this is just the mandate. I mean, it's a good roadmap, but good luck implementing it all. Now, the biggest thing about here is this document, these in general, this particular hearing. Um, Ad blocker. Because so you had a lot of people who are, it's usually for the most part bipartisan. But it goes back to what I said. Who were the ones perpetrating the violence? It's not right wingers. No offense. Contrary to popular what liberal people think. It's left wing. Democrats during the Summer of Love decided to not, you see, let's see. So they've also hinted that there has been other failures in the last, like, um, so apparently there was an attempt on Harris and other people. Like there's been foreign powers attempting stuff. Now, the big thing about it is most of their testimony in this part comes from how much do the people know? Again, it's like, sure. A lot of this is pretty much they couldn't find the manifesto. They confirm it, but they could not confirm or deny why the shot wasn't taken to take him out, where the failure was, you know, where the so this is the part where, see right here is because in wake of Trump nearly getting his head blown off, what wound up happening was they the idea the Iranians and other groups have been trying to get people in to do terrorist acts for a while, to basically attempt to retaliate basically for the killing of Soleimani. As I said, killing of Soleimani it was very interesting. But Iranians are also reiterate them as basically the the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is basically a terrorist organization. So bear in mind though, the idea that this is what I was talking about in the first part, which I'll have to link below, is they always go around and threaten people. China, it's weird. We don't know what they want. They've been trying to get people in. Now, here's something when he clarifies the Google search. The thing about the Google search, by the way, Schiff is a piece of work, by the way. Schiff is one of the biggest, snifeliest little people you'll ever find. Schiff has been supposedly responsible for a lot of like leaks in the committees he's a part of. Uh, so there's the whole thing of he did search for, because I've seen it reported. It's just like they say Kamala Harris raised $80 million in 24 hours. That's not true. That's not a realistic number. It's more like 24 to 30 million. Um, but like, there's a difference between Google searches with cached imagery than what was actually searched for. So he used a laptop. Uh, a collapsible stock. The thing about here is, hmm, see, Schiff is a very shifty individual. He's a special individual. See, him compared to Cheadle, right? So what people don't understand is he doesn't squirm a bunch. See, I go off body language. By the way, Getz, I have no idea. He has been mean to all high hell. Like, he is an interesting individual, but he has the weirdest face in the world. Like, his forehead is big, but his eyes are scrunched. It looks like a Martian. Uh, so, so you have about 4 hours to interview somebody, so you can ask questions. This is actually an interesting claim. So, the thing is, why Biden had to step down was due to the fact we know why Biden was stepping down is, I don't know if you think about sundowning, if people know what it is, in dementia patients or that type stuff. They have good hours they work. So it's like a 10 a.m. to about 4 p.m. kind of a thing. Um, See, he wasn't very unnerved at this point, but it's the idea, they call it like a sundowning effect, where he is more active at this time of the day than anything else. But a lot of this is coming from allegations like, see, this is a foreign influence. This was actually a revelation I heard about this last week. Okay. This is a very interesting thing because the Biden administration, about a year or so back, was talking about cracking down on AI, not for what we think it is. And this is coming from the FBI director as well, what you're hearing now. Generative AI, meaning it's an evolving algorithm that the Russians released to influence the election. They were able to find it, shut it down. This is one part, because as I said earlier. So what happened after the FBI, what they found out in the FBI report when the Russians first got in 2020, is they were using bot farms with false stories. Democrats hid this because Obama opened the door to the Russians because how dare the Russians? It's not the Cold War anymore. Republicans aren't correct. He had to quietly admit it. So take it for what it's worth. Okay. This is where China has seen not publicly, they won't speak about this though. Russians, the Iranians, and the Chinese. So they found 34 Chinese MPS officers. What is Chinese MPS? Ministry of Public Security officers, I guess they call them. Uh, They tried to get into the U.S. and they were under foreign visas. Uh, this has been the allegation for a while. This is what he's talking about right here. While the MPS is a nationwide, conducting counterintelligence and maintaining political security at its core, this has been 34 people were basically found in the U.S. to be, and they charged them. Now, this is not a hidden fact. This is not a openly talked about fact because it gets buried by the mainstream media. This is the MPS. So the idea that there's a secret bureau nabbing people who are Chinese nationalized citizens to be sent back as well. And they registered as Americans. So here's the thing. They were implanted in the US to basically act as spies. They got found out. They didn't want to say COVID came from a lab. Uh, Eric Swalwell's a little bit interesting. Like, they want law and order, but they don't want law and order. See, this is a DHS, right? So I heard something about this in particular. Mm. What's funny is the difference. Why would that thing face the cats? Why would the thing face the cats in the first place? Yes. See, this is what I was talking about. A lot of the Democrats want to have this narrative about gun control. The difference between an AR. Just because a gun is automatic doesn't mean it's accurate. So, I mean, talking caliber of the round as well. Um, but Swalwell was involved with something else as well. See, he was involved. This is the one that, correct me if I'm wrong, was involved with Fang Fang, a girl in college that turned out to be a foreign agent, and they tried to hook up years later. Chinese tried to milk him for information that he got cleared of, but X Master, yes, you watching. Fang Fang is was the name given to uh was given to, they called her Fang Fang, okay? All right. This comes from Axios. Okay. Here you are. Here. Apparently Eric Swalwell was targeted at one point. Shit, when was this story? Yeah, 2020, by the way. Immediately cut off the contact, etc., etc. Yeah, she had been operating counterintelligence. Yeah. It's very weird how a lot of these people have been around a while. She was gathering information, etc., etc. Called her Feng Feng. Yeah, that's how operations are conducted. Believe it or not, that's how it works. This is our discourse. The difference between a by the way, a difference between a semi-automatic weapon and an automatic weapon is a modification of a trigger. That's all. You can buy an automatic trigger all day, but it's only illegal if you modify the gun. See, this thing here is his face is the face of a person who knows this man's an idiot. This is the difference between a law enforcement officer than a person playing politics. This is how our government works. So, see the difference? See, he was comfortable. Like, this was the second hearing in the day because they didn't have him sit down for 4 hours straight. It was 44 minutes, 2 hours, 5 minutes. Then, what's funny is a G36 is mostly plastic. Believe it or not, as much as I love that gun in Division 2, I don't think I would ever use one in real life. It's mostly faulty plastic. That's why it is a weirdly adapted gun, by the way. Okay. You know what a G36 looks like? Let me see this. What's funny is, right? A G36, which is funny. It looks cool in video games. Okay? A G36 looks cool in video games. But a lot of the internal components are plastic, or they are, it's a good image here. Call it for what it is, right? When you see this, some of this is a metal casing, right? The modifications and attachments. It's done by HK. They look cool in video games, but in long projected combat, they break. There's reports of, like, when you look at these things, like, you can get a couple. They aren't the most reliable weapons. Some people like them, some people don't. It is it's not a controversial weapon, but for adapting to general use versus maintaining it is a different story. But they look good in video games. Practicality, there was reports that the stuff melted at one point. and everything under the sun. So it's a gun that looks good by video game standards, but doesn't look good. IRL could be fine, but weird. Yes. I don't know if we did, but yeah. G36s are very interesting because HKs are, I don't know. HK surprisingly has a lot of guns that are adapted, believe it or not. But oh, so they're jamming. Yeah, see, wow, so you have those. See, they're accurate though. That's the thing. They're good guns. But like it's kind of like our stuff, right? How we deal with things. Either jams, melting, maintaining. Yeah. It's not designed for full auto. Never was. It's because it's mostly plastic. Believe it or not. It's either plastic or very much the springs, battery. Because the early versions had, after so much, it would just melt. Yeah, that's the last thing you want in combat. Yeah, it's an issue with certain arms. Um, to my knowledge, that's why we're going to replace. Uh, the good part about them is they're very. US talked about like using them. Hmm. See, we were talking about over here is we've been talking about replacing the M16 and the M4 for many years, though. Like, we. They want to replace the saw. This just gives you an idea. Uh, we've been. What's funny is we've been using the same guns for a while, believe it or not. We're going to the M4 carbines, M16s, which is still it's like a 5.56 to like 6.62. Uh, we have been trying to test a replacement to what is the squad one for years, which is the squad guns. But they can't quite replace the 249 yet. It's an interesting debate because I've followed this for a while. See, like we replaced our other like we want to go to a 6.62 is standard use, but we're still in that five. It's a 5.56. The NATO standard. SIGs have been talked about for a while. It's no secret that our special forces usually prefer Barrett. Um, Berets, basically. It's just been like how many years since we have done it? See, this is the thing about the latter. No, we use modified M16s. The M16's been replaced a while. We've been on the what is that? That's the good part about Division. Division keeps an accurate portrayal of the guns. The That's the good part about, see, that's what I like about Division and I liked about Wildlands. The guns were realistic. And they also fire like they do. Because that's the big part. I mean, yeah, like the idea is it has to go with the when militaries want to modernize. You want stopping power, but you want to improve them, but you know that they are prone to issues. Like that was the early with the basically the jamming combat, etc., because the Russians and the Chinese, and they were like the 7.62s. They're very good up close, a lot of damage up close, but they're a heavy bullet. US's standards was for years was 5.56. 6.62 in certain areas is what people use because it's the compromise between the two. So in the modern times, we're going still for lethality, but accuracy downrange is different to be good in CQC. But we still maintain 5.56 variants. And that's a complicated discussion on military stuff, though. Because what we use in special forces, and it's kind of like at the assassination, right? The specialization that a lot of the Secret Service use are 9mm. They're 9mm rounds. So KMP5s, 9mm pistols, that's the preferred ammunition of the Secret Service, to be honest. Because in the audio from the assassination attempt on the day, you could hear both. That's why someone was suggesting someone got killed up close. Because someone heard 9mm firing. Well, you still need it. I mean, the gun control debate in the U.S. is a weird one. Now, do I believe an actual citizen should own military weaponry? Probably not. I mean, what use does the average citizen have for a 249? Tell me. That's what you got to ask yourself. What does the average citizen have for a goddamn machine gun? Besides the old ones for novelty, right? Like the Bonnie and Clyde, I think. Some of the old ones, like the one he used. A Browning, right? And those are registered by the DEA and federal agencies regulate those. And to get them, it's like a $20,000 license. It doesn't make sense. No. Like, I know people who own 50 cals. Like, see, I live in North Central Texas, a prime example. There's enthusiasts, right, who own like a 50 caliber sniper rifle. See, if you ever played Wildlands, there's an achievement. You can get it, or a personal achievement, for getting shot at a mile. And you can damn well do it. It's highly possible. Now, that's taking into account that Special Forces snipers do this in the field half the time. Let's say it's what? Effective range. Like Secret Service counter snipers, example, are trained up to 2,000 yards. Basically, it's like, and the whole thing, right, that what Swalwell says too is like, can a bolt, with a bolt action, can you fire off? Because that was actually the argument in the JFK assassination. Oswald couldn't fire all those bullets off at once. Yes, you can. Assuming it's magazine driven or not breech loaded, you can fire off those. That's probably not the term. You can fire it off, clear it, and get those same shots. So don't say it can't be done. It can be done. It happens in competition shooting all the time. People get confused with video game logic versus how actual weapons work. Democrats don't get that. I don't even know what they consider a mile. So about 2,000 yards. I mean, depending on what you call, because the definition, right, of a long gun. See, Democrats don't understand the definition between what is a long gun. So here, like, we had an incident recently in North Central Texas. Not recently, but it did happen. A person shot a 50 caliber sniper rifle because we have wide open area. Shot it in a field. He thought he hit it. He didn't detect a bullet. It went all the way into the middle of Texas Motor Speedway. Had enough power to punch through an RV, land right in the middle. Didn't kill anybody, but it went that far. Like 22 miles. Had enough force. Just to tell you. Yeah, that's those. Yeah, like the idea of it's the idea of personal use versus a long gun. The other debate you see in the gun debate in the US is clip size. States can regulate clip size, but it doesn't stop people from getting from another state and getting a extended clip. I'll be right back. So I can get a restroom. because that is a bigger debate than anything else. A lot of states block access to. Boy. So you already have a lot of states that block access to, like, this is what a lot of Democrats don't get federally. A lot of states already regulate uh, clip size, basically. A lot of blue states already have the strictest gun laws known to man. And this is something that a lot of people don't know. A lot of these states take for what it is. You can ask the FBI because they try to say, did he illegally buy the gun? No, he legally bought the gun, then the father sold the gun to crooks. I mean, that's entirely fine. Title was passed. Crooks didn't have a felony on his record, so he could own it. So it's not the gotcha that they thought they could get. They called none of this part noteworthy. This was one of the more bigger parts, because he started getting more irritable through here. He started getting more antsy. This was the third reset, the third after the second reset. See, this was a good question. Subtitles scroll this way. So, this is just delayed without playing the clip. It's Firefox doesn't use it. Firefox doesn't have a plugin. Plus, I would play it muted just in case of copyright reasons. This will already get flagged by YouTube for various reasons anyways. Because it gets flagged for tags regardless. See, his question was, how do you restore faith in America? Because the FBI and the DOJ has been used as a bludgeoning in the wake of Banana Republic. See, I've been saying the U.S. is teetering on the risk of being a banana republic for a while. Basically, if it's just a centralized policy to prosecute the last administration, where does that stop? Now, what's funny is he basically is a massive credibility thing. So the idea, see, this is what I'm saying. The bigger problem with the weaponization of government is what a lot of the American people fear. That they can't get an answer for this, though. So the question was, this part of the question outside of how do you restore credibility is, if Crooks was a marked target, was because there's an allegation that he was a the counter sniper had to be given permission to shoot. Now, nobody has an answer for this because it's speculation. Someone told him to step down, and then he went flat. On the roof was two local cops went up and looked over, but one was going to draw his gun and shoot him. Oh, I forgot about the explosives part. He did say the explosives were in an off position, but they were very crude, but they were effective. They were basically base IEDs. So, see, the allegations have been a failure in the chain of command in Pennsylvania. The explosives he had in the car were in an off position, but he had them a remote detonator. See, that look when he looks in is he doesn't know. See, the thing about the FBI versus other is they have to deal more with the public, so they are very more formal. Basically, the threat of political violence right now has been perpetrated by a lot more Democrats than right wing people. So nothing leads that he had any foreign connection. He had no criminal record. He just shows up. See, and there was a whole thing of the father taught him to shoot the gun, and he went to a range like a couple of days before. He went to the fairground area before, like a couple of days before. But then again, the FBI isn't going to have exact what to color to red. Probably. Not the opacity, right? Font size is max. They have to code these videos like this. See, the allegation is the FBI has to find a way to get into encrypted devices. So if you go to the Q nightclub shooting in Florida, they found a way to crack iPhones, and they didn't tell Apple back then. Though they actually asked, or they asked Apple to get into it, but they couldn't get into it. Oh yeah, trust me. He does hint at the fact of if it weren't for 9/11, Bush would have probably been assassinated at one point because they heightened a lot of security. Even I've known that for years. They cracked it first. They cracked the iPhone first. CIA cracked it. CIA and FBI both cracked it prior. They didn't tell the public. They also didn't tell Apple. And they were still fighting it tooth and nail, by the way. So, see, this was the idea that they have been trying to get in through the border. So there's been a lot of the reason why the FBI has been very active. This is a byproduct of this hearing. Is the students doing the pro Hamas or either actors or self radicalized? And this is why they say we haven't seen this since before the attacks of 9/11. Basically, anti Semitic crimes have risen in the highest they have been in many years. Led, and most of them are Democrats, and it's being fanned by a lot of people who are high up in our government because a lot of high ranking Democrats are anti Semitic themselves. And this goes back, he's talking about October 7th attacks. But they didn't tell people how they got into that phone either. This goes back to what I was saying about the see, this is an interesting thing. See, the thing is, and they're asking a legit question: how infiltrated are the Democrats? Because counter-terrorist activity has been at an all-time high, same as activity has been high. So it makes sense that the Chinese or people who hate America would be exploiting a weakness. Ugh, I felt this question was bad. This question wasn't the best. See, I don't think he could have answered that. Like, she's trying to ask him, as the acting FBI director, if he knew about the Russian in 2020. No. See, this part was a lot more interesting because they didn't really have solid. Because this is just him sitting here having to answer questions. Because I recommend people look at the social media hearings. Basically, what stops a lot of tech companies. See, this line of question that she asked was, is it allowed for the federal government? Because when Musk took over Twitter, he found there was a partnership with the FBI. They had a team of agents that were just combing Twitter. That's in the Twitter documents. So in the Twitter documents, there was a section of the FBI either looking for information or influencing and suppressing information, spinning a narrative with bot farms, believe it or not. Same thing, they found links to the Biden Harris administration too. But that got buried under a lot of work, paperwork as well. So her big deal is she's saying that the social media companies have been used in the US to suppress voters. Now, this was all one hearing, but he can't answer it to yes or no either, or what he wants to, because hmm, I'm doing good. But the restroom will be right back. So I should drink water. This concerns actually the. Oh, Hi, Oliver. Yeah, that. Where is my? See, you were near Oliver, but not my other. That's weird. That's weird, cat. I swear. Yeah, where have you been? Thank you. All is right with the universe now. Thank you. Well, no, I'm just not speaking at the moment. It was AFK because I go to the restroom and then get back. I go track down where my cat was because he's not weird. Mm. Why would you want to? That's why you shouldn't mail weird things. The thing is, a lot of this is when you see the competing branches. It's something that I figured happened. Hmm. You didn't hear nothing. Because what's funny is if I move my mic, right, you'll hear the cat or something because the mic picks it up because it picks it up in the room. You're implying weird things because it will pick up the room because it's the way the room is set up. No, you don't. Don't derail. I don't think it's anything more. Oh, this one. See, this is where they're trying to take into account. Maybe earlier, but not now. Because I know what my mic picks up and what it doesn't. Because you assume, right? Backside, sure. You might hear it, depending on the mic style. It doesn't pick it up. But it will pick the room up. Thank you for noticing. So, let me explain this. Half this mic, right? Take a point. Corduroy mic, right? So front, back, cone, different. My next investment's in a mixer. So if you hear front, right, to back, front, back, see, front, and then if you say in the back, it's different. Now, there's two different settings. One, you can pick up, two, and around. One, it will pick the room up. A setting is different than the setting is the other. So there's a setting, right? Two different settings for this. One picks up only in the front. One then picks up the bubble. So you ask Gray about this more than me. I know enough. See, what sounds get picked up and what don't, I kinda know. Trust me, I test it religiously to know. Well, you might be right, you might be wrong. That I highly doubt. See, the clarification of the shots is what they're asked for. First shot went past his head. Miss Sparkles, what I am going over is the testimony of the FBI director talking about the assassination on Trump. They're trying to clarify. See, earlier in the day, he bought 50 rounds. See, he squeezed off 8 shots, but supposedly more shots had been heard in the audio. But no one can prove there was more than one. Like, the idea was there more than one shooter, etc., etc. Because the big one is the Secret Service investigation, that is, the testimony was on the 30th that I need to go over. So he made homemade IEDs with remote detonation. And they don't know why he had it. But they haven't found a manifesto, they haven't found posts or nothing. I mean, a lot of these hearings are 4 hours. Cypress. Tombo. See, they did say those explosives were, or the ones he had could be. But there's a lot of stuff they haven't said to the public. These hearings were public, but public in the idea is Rousseau. Oh, nice to see you, Rousseau. You can go back and watch it. I went over the first part because this is going over Rousseau. This is going over. I'm doing a series on the assassination of Trump. First, I went over what was Cheeto's testimony. This is going over the director's testimony, which was the 24th, which was about, as I said, 4 hours. It concerns a lot of what the current situation was, because a lot of this was deferred because the Cheeto, the director of the Secret Service, kept saying she farmed out the investigation to the FBI. Now, the FBI doesn't know the motive. Now, there's a lot of stuff because this was a public hearing in the stage of the investigation. They don't know. This doesn't concern the failure as much as there's other parts of the security. And you can go look at this. It's a very interesting hearing because they had to establish there were other threats. Bear in mind, it's very interesting that 60% of the FBI is active in full investigations right now, along with at least 13 to 31% of foreign offices are. That should tell you a lot. See, and they're trying, and this is when they were still trying to get the notices to get into his Twitter and his Discord and other stuff. They took his gaming console too. because the data that they've been trying to collect so far, no one really knows. Well, there's no way you're going to get near a presidential rally with explosives. But because he was a loner, and they don't know what the motive is. Hmm. See, the idea of the cache search data, they're having to differentiate between the search data and the cache search data. Cache searches are not good. Hmm. Hmm. I can't say what his motive is particularly. I mean, without seeing it. I mean, you don't demonize a person for 4 years and someone doesn't take a shot at them. There's been Democrat Congress people, men and women, who have reported political violence against them as well. Like there was one that testified in Seattle. She had a gun drawn at her on her doorstep. But bear in mind, she's up in Seattle, so that's Antifa or closer. It's not really right wing because Democrats are trying to say right wing extremism is on the rise. That's largely due to either the political pressure from the White House, which Rye was pushing back because he's denying the fact he goes, we're an apolitical arm. Because there is multiple stories about uh, investigations going on. This woman here got charged. She's sentenced to 2 years. Her and like 8 or 9 others for just blocking a abortion clinic. And the FBI director, FBI people talked to them, and he got really antsy. Why? It was all because of the FACE Act. I mean, this is a court document if you want to find it. It's all they did. He was asked about January 6th. The idea, right, is the FBI has been deeply involved in stuff. But the question is, what can they answer and they can't? They can and they can't answer. But see, a lot of the rhetoric of violence is coming from the left. Basically, in this election cycle, both the left and the right are both calling each other the last presidents. Democrats are going further with Project 2025, which they have no idea what it is. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's very similar to the contract with America. Yeah, you heard me right. A 75-year-old woman who was part of a group protesting an abortion clinic got sentenced to 2 years on conspiracy and violating the FACE Act. Yeah, is what it was called. Yeah. Her and 9 others, among 9 conspirators. New Republic is a socialist magazine, by the way. Now, if you don't see this, I'm going to repeat this. It's called American Fascism. They compare Trump to Hitler, and you're shocked someone takes a shot at him. Trump channels like Hitler with poison with the blood reference, etc., etc. These are Vanity Fair, CNN, Independent, Hill. It's basically, if you're talking about rhetoric, but where is that rhetoric coming from? It's coming from the left. It's coming from the left, not the right. I mean, Dev talks about this, but Dev is also a centrist moron. He doesn't know me. Because the thing about the rhetoric has been very high this election cycle. Because remember, we're still coming off the summer of love in the George Floyd incident. Democrats have not pushed back against their side pushing violence. There was an assassination attempt on Kamala Harris earlier this year. Thank you, Rosa. So a lot of this was a bipartisan hearing, but this was later because a lot of the Myrtle Beach, Georgetown, Florida. See, he's asking about the radio recordings. And he can't answer this either because she did not say about, because there's conflicting stories on how. So procedure would have been a local person would have been inside the operations center for the Secret Service to coordinate them. Supposedly it didn't happen that day. He did confirm moments before the shooter took the shots, the two cops climbed the roof, but one had to get down because of unstable footing. But recreating the events of that day, that's why the hearing on the 30th with the acting director of the Secret Service is more interesting. Because the interviews, the FBI and other people corrupt. There was also, he did not mention the ATF man in the gray suit in any of his testimony. Now, that is something I didn't see any lines of questioning for it either. That is something that is a mystery. Why was a person from the ATF there? Now, I will say he said he did not have any plainclothes officers in the crowd. Now, there was a photo, and this is just hearsay and speculation, that don't take this as fact. Someone did a photo comparison of a woman sitting behind Trump in a MAGA hat that matches an FBI description of an employee. But bear in mind, just like January 6th, the list of informants is either missing or can't be found. To this day, by the way, they said they officially lost the records. But he didn't have a ladder. Well, yeah, there's a lot of videos that day because a lot of recordings were done because a lot of the incidents, right, the government's been trying to get them. But there was, at least, because to his knowledge, or what he couldn't say was there was no informants or no agents at the scene. Which I don't buy and no one buys. Just to give you an idea, there was an FBI drone right above where Kyle Rittenhouse shooting was that they had to have access to. And the FBI fought them tooth and nail over that, but they got it, and it was used to clear Rittenhouse during his trial. Why would the FBI have a drone over a Black Lives Matter rally? Go figure. Because even if, I will say this, the current FBI is the most scariest since the days of J. Edgar Hoover. What is that, Rasul? The building, if you go back and look at what I said on the first one, they posted no snipers there. No snipers were posted on the water tower either. Now, I have not seen the testimony on the 30th yet. I was too tired and did not feel well enough to go over that the other day. And see, here's the thing about what the sniper saw that day and what is. One had a clear shot, was either, and it's very debatable if he could take the shot or not take the shot. This is something where it was a failure in the chain of command of the day. It was a chain failure of the day. And without a recreation, the FBI director can't even get all the testimony for that. Because even he said he's talked to the classmates and the other, like, this was at the time, and 9 days after, they had no motive for the kid. Watching a recreation doesn't, it was a 5-mile-an-hour wind. I mean, you're talking a failure in whatever. I mean, the Secret Service director was still trying. I mean, she knew a lot of the answers, but she couldn't say or didn't want to say. Because why say? It's just like him here. What he would say in a public hearing versus a private hearing is two separate. But this is more of what happened that day. Person of concern doesn't mean hmm. Yeah. And he was going to draw his weapon and shoot him, but he couldn't get the stability. Hmm. This was asked multiple times and no one knows the answer. The counter sniper's testimony, because there was a lot of whistleblowers, but the whistleblowers can't be made public because nobody, I think as of the 30th, they're under agreement, or the acting director of the Secret Service won't even allow them to come before Congress, even privately. See? This was the other really, Miss Sparkles, I don't have the video downloaded, and I'm not like Katie did and get my channel struck for reasons. See, this was the other big line of questioning, like DEI hiring. Was it done with Secret Service? People wanted this. See, the DEI questioning is weird because they were complaining that the fact that they were firing people from Quantico who didn't meet regulations. Because the allegation is the governmental agencies have not been what is it? Like Secret Service as it stands, supposedly is 1,500 people understaffed. The FBI director supposedly, I guess under Comey leading into others, lessened the requirements to become an FBI agent. Now, this is debatable in here with because you're talking about a position that is very key. So, a lot of what this actually is, and this was a big deal to him, they asked Cheadle this too, and I'm assuming they're going to ask the same to the acting director of the Secret Service too, is what were the hiring practices. Now, personally, see, Rye did say if a director, if a person, he said they did send a person back or to an HR department who said something disparaging of Trump, meaning that they violated either an oath or did something, meaning that they were doing stuff and showing bias. So he was talking about, this is the first time I heard about this. There was a 112-page report filed by someone within the FBI about hiring practices compromising the FBI. Now, he is aware of it. So 100,000 applications. See, this is the part where, like, this was towards the end. I was like I said. So this has nothing to do with it. Versus, this should have been two questions. Because what he is talking about does see, he cannot speak. This is not something you're going to ask the FBI director, though. Because you're not going to ask the FBI director about the hiring service practices of the Secret Service. Because it is known that the Secret Service is about 1,500 people understaffed. And see, they have been radio silent on this even to this day. To my knowledge, I haven't seen one. So the idea is he's asking, he is a Republican from Ohio, that the FBI is not doing their job. Maybe a restructuring. Same with the Secret Service. Now, in reality, this goes into the aftermath side. So, it goes into what will come of this. Because will you see a restructuring or will you not? But yeah, a lot of this is just, it's pretty much minutia. See, this is a key detail. It gets asked multiple times. Did they know he was there? And this is where they say the breakdown in communication was. Reiterates. See, the Iranian threat is a big one too in this one. Because the not CIA, but the Secret Service director said she did not deny any assets to them. Because he can't go into classified information either. That's how the government works, unfortunately. See, he knows why it's being asked. But in this hearing, right, because there was a lot of this one, because the one that is the big one is schedule was the 30th. Was I swear I am sometimes good for like it's here. It's this one. It's that one right there. This will probably be in part 3. You know, I got to go over this one because this was the first one. Because they don't deal like a lot of these, like they're not like when you see how it works. Like a lot of this was radio silent for like about longer than a week. So I close this one out, and then I'm gonna have to take a slight break. Yeah, it's a oh god, I have busy. I am gonna have to go watch the Cape Crusader. Here's this one. Oh, this is what I was looking for. Oh, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for that one. Right here. Found it. See, this was the state police commissioner. And what he knew. Because this showed a further breakdown in command between the FBI and between all the agencies that day. Mark that. Yeah, very rare they have a Sunday, so re-air it. I don't know. I'll see how long this goes because the other part is I need to see on the thing on the Secret Service. Might have to wrap those up into 2 because the state. I mean, a lot of it you can condense it down. So yeah, there wasn't anything between the 24th. So, but I will see people later, and thank you for watching. And I'll see yourselves and Moom and the rest. I probably have to go lay down, and then I'm going to go watch the Cape Crusader. Let's see, I can't stream that to people because it's Amazon. I will probably have a gaming stream this weekend. If I sound run down, I do because I had to take some painkillers with some NyQuil because I'm still dealing with a sinus infection. So, a cold or flu, whatever the hell this is. Because it flared up right as I got home. So, I gotta go work off this headache. Anyways, I will catch people later. Like and subscribe or just watch it back. Ugh, so sorry for the lower energy. I don't know, some days I'm feeling better. I feel like I'm about 80% better, but not really. It's hit or miss. But yeah, catch people then, and I should be streaming maybe later or tomorrow or the weekend.